gave the coin a unique look, setting older circulated examples apart from freshly minted ones that would have glowed with a reddish-bronze shine. On the obverse front of the coin, the design featured the South African coat of arms, which was the emblem of the Republic during that era. Around the arms, inscriptions appeared in both English and Afrikaans, the two official languages of the country at the time. Depending on the specific strike, you could see either South Africa or Suid-Afrika, along with the year 1968, marking its place in history. The reverse back of the coin was simple yet meaningful. It displayed two sparrows perched on a branch. This design symbolized simplicity, nature, and the everyday life of South Africans. The denomination 1C was clearly shown, emphasizing its role as the smallest unit of money. Despite its low value, this tiny coin carried weight in daily transactions, buying sweets at the local shop, contributing to a bus fare, or being carefully saved in a child's pocket. The coin was struck in bronze, measuring 19 millimeters in diameter and weighing around 3.56 grams. Its round, plain-edged form was unassuming, yet for many people, it was an essential part of daily life. Today, the 1968 1-cent Swart coin tells a larger story than just its physical details. It speaks of a South Africa in transition, a country grappling with its identity, politics, and place in the world during the late 1960s. For numismatists and history lovers, each surviving coin is like a time capsule. Some pieces remain bright and well-kept, preserved in collections, while others have lived long lives, exchanged countless hands, and now carry the darkened, swart surface that gave them their nickname. Though worth only a fraction of modern currency, the 1968 1-cent coin carries far greater value in the story it tells. Of an era, a people, and a country recorded in metal, one small coin at a time. For many years after it was minted, the 1968 1-cent coin passed through the hands of ordinary South Africans without attracting much notice. It was common pocket change, often forgotten at the bottom of drawers, slipped between couch cushions, or jingling in the pockets of children on their way to the corner shop. But over time, as newer coinage replaced it and as inflation made the humble cent nearly worthless, these coins quietly disappeared from circulation. Collectors, however, began to see something different in them. The 1968 issue is not among the rarest South African coins, but its Swart nickname gave it a unique identity. This dark-tone patina that many coins developed with age turned each piece into something slightly different. No two aged exactly the same way. For coin enthusiasts, that patina is like a fingerprint, telling a story of the coin's journey through decades of handling, weather, and preservation. From a numismatic perspective, the 1968 1-cent is valued based on a few important factors. Condition. Grade: a coin that has been heavily circulated will usually show smooth surfaces, faint details on the sparrows, and an overall dark appearance. These are common and not highly valuable, but they remain popular with collectors who appreciate the history. On the other hand, uncirculated or mint condition examples, still glowing with their original bronze brilliance, are much harder to find and can command a higher value. Minting variations. Like many coins of its era, minor variations or errors sometimes occurred. Collectors pay close attention to alignment, strike quality, and lettering. A misprint, double strike, or unusual flaw can turn an ordinary coin into a prized piece. Historical context. Beyond its face value, the 1968 coin is tied to the South Africa of its time. The country was deep in the apartheid era, and its coins carried the coat of arms of the Republic, representing a government that was internationally controversial and increasingly isolated. Owning one of these coins is not just about numismatics, it is about holding a piece of a complex history. Today, most circulated 1968 1-cent coins are worth only a modest amount, often just a few rand or a couple of dollars to collectors. But in pristine, uncirculated condition, or as part of a complete decimal coin collection, they can fetch more interest. More importantly, their sentimental and historical value often outweighs their monetary worth. For older South Africans, the coin may recall a childhood moment, the sweets bought with a single cent, or the pocket money saved up patiently. For younger generations and collectors abroad, it is a glimpse into a time before digital money, when every small coin had significance. Thus, the 1968 1-cent Swart coin stands as more than a piece of bronze. It is a small, round storybook of South Africa in the 1960s, a witness to the daily lives of ordinary people, to the struggles and complexities of a nation, and to the way even the smallest coin can endure far longer than its intended use. Imagine opening an old wooden drawer in a quiet family home. The wood creaks as you pull it forward, and at the back, hidden beneath forgotten receipts and faded photographs, lies a small tin. Inside, rattling against each other, are coins long out of use, pennies, half-cents, and 1-cent pieces that once meant everything to a child with dreams of sweets and bubblegum. Among them, you notice one that has darkened with age, its surface almost black, its sparrows barely visible under the worn bronze glow. You have just found a 1968 1-cent Swart. To the untrained eye, it might look worthless, just an old coin too small to matter. But to the coin collector or the curious historian, it is a fragment of the past, preserved in metal. This little coin was once part of South Africa's great monetary transition, when the country had recently moved away from pounds, shillings, and pence. For many families, the cent represented something new, something modern, and yet something so small that it was easily overlooked. The coin may have passed through thousands of hands before it landed in that tin. Perhaps it bought a newspaper in Johannesburg or paid part of a tram fare in Cape Town. Maybe it was carried in a schoolchild's pocket in Durban, traded for a packet of peanuts at a corner shop. Its surface, now darkened swart, bears the scars of those journeys. Scratches, smoothed edges, tiny dents from being dropped and picked up again. Collectors today often find these coins in exactly such places. In old savings jars, tucked away in cupboards, or discovered at flea markets. The thrill lies not in the coin's monetary value, for most are not worth a fortune, but in the connection it creates to another time. Holding a 1968 1-cent is like stepping into a South Africa of the past, hearing the echoes of streets, shops, and voices long gone. Sometimes, a collector finds not just one, but a set coins lined up by year, shining examples preserved in velvet cases. The 1968 piece, darkened with the years, sits alongside brighter coins, each one a chapter in the story of a nation. The Swart cent may not shine anymore, but it tells a story in a way a polished coin never could. I still remember the day I first came to life. The year was 1968, and the mint was alive with noise, great machines clashing and stamping, sparks flying as sheets of bronze were fed into hungry presses. Then, with a heavy strike, I was born. My face carried the coat of arms of South Africa, and on my back, 2 sparrows perched proudly on a branch. I gleamed like fire, fresh and red bronze, ready for the world from the mint. I was carried away in bags, along with thousands of brothers and sisters, to banks and shops across the country. My first journey was into the hand of a young boy in Johannesburg. His mother had given me to him along with a few of my brothers so he could buy sweets from a street vendor. His laughter rang in my metal as I slipped from his hand into the till, and though I was small, I felt proud. I had purpose, years rolled by, and I lived a busy life. I bought bus fares for workers heading to the mines. I passed through the hands of a young couple who counted their coins carefully at a market stall, stretching every cent. I jingled in the pockets of schoolchildren, who saved me carefully in tin cans, dreaming of buying toys. Each person touched me briefly, never knowing they were leaving a faint trace of their life on my bronze skin. But time is cruel to little coins. As the years passed, inflation grew, and I was no longer enough to buy what I once could. The boy who had once bought sweets with me was now a man, and a single cent meant almost nothing. New coins came, brighter and heavier, and I became less wanted. I was shoved to the bottom of purses, tossed into drawers, and forgotten in jars of change. My red glow faded to brown, then to near black. That was when they began to call me swart, dark, old, and nearly invisible. For a long time, I lay in silence. The world outside changed. Governments rose and fell, people marched for freedom, and South Africa's story grew heavy with history. I saw none of it, but I felt the weight of passing years. Then, decades later, someone found me again. A child opened a dusty tin box in the back of a cupboard. They tipped the contents onto a table, a small pile of forgotten coins, and there I was, rolling forward, my sparrows still faintly visible. Their grandfather looked down and smiled. "Ah," he said softly, "this is from 1968. I remember these." Suddenly, I was no longer worthless. I was a piece of memory, a token of a South Africa long gone. A collector took me, polished me gently, and placed me in a protective sleeve beside other coins from the same era. For the first time in many years, I felt valued again. And so, my journey continues. I am no longer used to buy sweets or fairs or peanuts from a vendor. Instead, I am a storyteller. My blackened bronze skin speaks of the hands I touched, the pockets I lived in, the years I survived. I am the 1968 1-cent swart, forgotten by many, but remembered by a few. My worth lies not in money, but in the history I carry. And as long as I endure, I will whisper the story of a time when even the smallest coin mattered. The year was 1968. In the bustling halls of the South African Mint, great machines clanged and roared as sheets of bronze were cut, stamped, and pressed into shape. Among thousands of coins created that year, one small piece of bronze was struck with two sparrows on one side and the South African coat of arms on the other. This was me. I was new, gleaming, and full of purpose. Though I was worth only a single cent, I knew I had a role to play. My first life began in the hands of ordinary South Africans. I was used by a little boy in Johannesburg to buy sweets from a corner shop. I jingled in the pockets of workers who used me for bus fares. I was counted out by mothers in markets, carefully stretched alongside other coins to make ends meet. That I was passed from hand to hand, day after day, touching countless lives. To children, I was treasure. To adults, I was a necessity. Though small, I mattered. In 1968, I was born in the roar of the mint, pressed from glowing bronze, my surface shining with sparrows on one side and the South African coat of arms on the other. I was small, just a single cent, but I was bright and full of promise. I entered the world with thousands of others, carried in bags to banks and shops, ready to serve in the lives of ordinary people. At first, I was useful. A little boy in Johannesburg traded me for sweets at a corner shop, laughing as I slipped from his hand into the till. I rode in the pocket of a worker on his way to the mines, paying for part of a bus fare. I passed from mother to shopkeeper, counted carefully with other coins to buy bread at a market stall. To a child, I was treasure. To a family, I was part of survival. Every hand that touched me left a mark, and I carried them all. But time changed everything. Prices rose, and a single cent could no longer buy what it once had. Newer coins appeared, larger, heavier, more important. My value shrank until I was almost nothing. I was dropped into drawers, pushed into jars, forgotten beneath the weight of years. My bright bronze faded to a dark brown, then nearly black. That was when I was called swart, blackened by age, a shadow of what I once was. The world outside shifted in ways I could not see. People marched, governments changed, a nation struggled and grew, but I lay silent, untouched, waiting. Decades passed before a child, rummaging through an old cupboard, tipped a tin of coins onto a table. I rolled out, dull and scarred, and their grandfather picked me up. He smiled, turning me over in his fingers. "This is from 1968, he said. I remember these. Once more, I had meaning. I was no longer money, but memory. A collector placed me gently into a sleeve, preserving my scars, my darkness, my story. Around me were other coins from other years, each carrying its own tale. I was not polished to shine again, for my blackened skin told the truth of where I had been. Now I live not as currency but as history. I am a whisper of a South Africa long past, of the laughter of children, of bus rides to work, of markets and families stretching every cent. I am the 1968 1-cent swart, small and humble, but filled with the weight of time. Forgotten once, but found again. I endure as proof that even the smallest coin can carry a nation's story. After I was found in that old tin and lifted gently into the light, I became more than just a forgotten coin. The grandfather who recognized me held me in his hand for a long while. His eyes softened, and he spoke of the days when I still had worth. He told his grandson how a single cent could buy a handful of sweets, a newspaper, or a bus ride across town. He spoke of how children once saved coins like me in small jars, rattling with pride when the sound grew heavy. The boy listened, his imagination wandering to a South Africa he had never seen. To him, I was not just metal. I was a story. He asked if he could keep me, but his grandfather shook his head and said, "No, this one we will keep together. It is part of our family's story now." Years passed, and I was kept safe in a small box on a wooden shelf, taken out only when someone wanted to hear my tale again. Sometimes the boy would hold me up to the light and ask questions. What was it like in 1968? What could you buy? Who carried you? And though I could not answer in words, my darkened surface carried the echoes. When the grandfather grew older, he placed me in the boy's hand. "This coin," he said, "is not valuable in money, but it is priceless in memory. Keep it safe, and when you are older, tell your children about it. Let them know how even the smallest coin can carry history."